What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
First things first, on a Monday morning, did the Colts suddenly become Super Bowl contenders with new quarterback, wait for it, Carson Wentz? How should Tom Brady be spending his offseason because he doesn't have a clue? And has Joel Embiid passed the king in the MVP race? And with that, we say good morning and we welcome ourselves back to you. It is great to be here. First things first, Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall. Our guy Kevin is off this morning. But Nick, what is there room on the throne for Joel Embiid?
Come on, listen, it's a two-man race. I've been saying it's a two-man race. I think Brandon's got the hottest take on this. That coming up later. It's great to be back.
There you go. There you go.
All right, well, we are going to stay in the NBA. Big game last night. Must-watch TV. Nets and Clippers.
Brandon's
going to say this could be a championship preview. Nick's going to say Brandon could be losing his mind. Nets without KD again last night. It didn't matter because James Harden, because Kyrie Irving, because they played a little defense. It was all too much for the Clippers. Nets win. With that, Nick, I got to ask, you starting to believe in this team at least a little bit? That's 6 straight wins for this Brooklyn team.
You know, it's a great question. And as I was watching that game last night, the game that Brandon months ago said was going to be the NBA Finals that we get, Clippers, Nets, I thought, you know, I know what the old Nick would say. The old Nick would say it's a great win by the Nets. You know, all it took was Paul George not playing the final 3 minutes, DeAndre Jordan with the most absurd tip-in you've ever seen, and then maybe the single worst offensive foul call this decade in the NBA, and you eke out a win. That's what the old Nick would say. But the new Nick, the refreshed, rejuvenated after a week off Nick, what I want to say is this. That's a great win by Brooklyn, and it's not even the most important thing that happened to them this week, or this past week, and nor is the win over the Lakers. The most important thing that happened to Brooklyn this week was Kyrie Irving taking a step back and saying James Harden's going to be the point guard of this basketball team, and that is going to allow their offense, which was already functioning at a super high level, to function at an even higher level, because James Harden is a better true point guard than Kyrie Irving. So it was a great road trip. It was a spectacular trip to Los Angeles, beating the Lakers and the Clippers. And the Nets have to be feeling great about themselves. Now, Brandon, none of this addresses their issue of defense, nor does it address their issue
here we go.
I believe, an inability to stop who they're going to have to stop in Embiid and Giannis. But it's a great road trip. It's a great road trip. They won all 5 games. They beat Phoenix, LA, and LA in 3 straight. It's a great road trip, Brandon.
How do you show so much love? I mean, we won 6 in a row. This is the first team in the Eastern Conference that's gone out west, won 5-6 games in a row since 2010. And you want to talk about defense right now? That's what we're going to do right now. Nick, it is over. It's time for you to get on board. Last night, Nick, was a preview of this year's NBA Finals. That's what it was. Nets versus Clippers. Nets beat the Clippers. Nets are way too much. This is a NBA 2K created team. This is unfair, this team, how they're able to score. And you're 100% right. Kyrie Irving continues to have a freakish year. He's playing phenomenal. It's an MVP type year. And James Harden is the key to this. The biggest question going into the season was, who's going to sacrifice? Is James Harden going to be willing to sacrifice and not score as much and take as many shots? That's what he's been able to do. He's been able to touch the ball more and pass the ball way more. Like, this dude isn't even taking shots like he used to in Houston. This dude is phenomenal. He's having a phenomenal year. He is the MVP of this team. And we didn't even have KD last night. So, Nick, it's time for you to get on board because these guys have finally figured out their role and they're stepping into their purpose this year. It's amazing. So, let's go, Nets.
And so, listen, and they did it without Kevin Durant, which obviously is maybe the most notable part of this whole thing is Durant's nursing that hamstring. Here, if this is the NBA Finals, then the Nets absolutely can win the title. I think they can beat the Clippers in a series. Here is my problem for your Nets, and it's not just about holistically about defense. It's about what you have seen in this, the best part of this 6-game winning streak, beating the Warriors and the Kings, that doesn't matter all that much. But beating the Suns, who are good, beating the Lakers, who are excellent,
they're really good,
beating the Clippers, who are close to excellent, those 3 wins are really notable. But those 3 teams, when Anthony Davis isn't playing, all lack what I believe, Brandon, is the Nets' Achilles heel, which is an interior presence. And I know how high you are on Embiid this year. And in the second round of these playoffs, forget the conference finals, in the second round, the Nets are either going to be playing Giannis and the Bucks or Embiid and the Sixers. And then if they get past both of those teams, then in the NBA Finals, I don't think they'll be playing the Los Angeles Clippers. I think they'll be playing the Los Angeles Lakers. And my question to you would be, as good as they're playing right now, are you not a little concerned about Embiid or Giannis or AD being able to have their way with them down on the inside because they haven't had to face that during this winning streak?
Well, first off, we're going to talk about Giannis and the Bucks later on in the show, but I'm definitely not concerned about them. Have you been watching them lately? Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to talk about him later in the show. Yeah, I'm a little concerned when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, but at the end of the day, this is what I look for. I look for a team that has 3 potential scores, 2 at least. Because if you have 3, then you're able to beat the Nets. But if you have 2 and one have an off night, like the Lakers, then you have no chance. Lakers have no AD, so they have no chance right now. AD's having a terrible year. Even when he's healthy, it's a down year for him. The 76ers, I'm not concerned about Joel Embiid. We'll get past him because they don't have anybody outside of Joel Embiid that can give you 30 a night consistently. Ben Simmons just now getting back healthy. The shooters, yes, they're doing a phenomenal job, but they're not hitting as many threes as they did even last year, but they are efficient. So no, Nick, I'm not concerned about the Lakers. I'm not concerned about the Bucks, and I'm definitely not concerned about the 76ers.
All right, well, you said doing it with 2 out of 3. That's exactly what the Nets have been doing, KD, again, sitting out a 4th straight game last night. This big 3 in Brooklyn, guys, they've only played 7 games together so far. But, Nick, how much better do you think the team can actually get when you get Kevin Durant back?
Well, listen, Durant's one of the 3 best players in the world, and they're doing this without him. And what I will say is the big benefit, Brandon, to having a big 3 is one of them can be out and your team can still function at a super high level. That is the difference. But while I will take LeBron and AD over KD and Harden any day of the week, the Lakers' 3rd best player, is it Schroeder? Like who do you want to? Is it Harrell? I don't think it's Harrell. Who would it be? The Nets' 3rd best player is Kyrie. So when the Lakers are without one of their top 2 guys, they're in real trouble. If the Sixers or the Bucks are without one of their top 2 guys, they're in real trouble. The Nets' margin of error is greater. And that, Brandon, is the whole idea behind the big 3 is if somebody gets dinged up, you can still function. You can still compete with the best teams in basketball as we saw last night.
Right, and that was my last point is exactly that. I mean, no KD the last 4 or 5 games, and look what you're seeing, right? You know, you got a guy in KD averaging 29, Kyrie Irving 27, and then you have a guy who's sacrificing the most, and we're not talking about him, James Harden, having an MVP year, although he's not scoring or averaging 35 like he did last year in Houston and the years before that, and James Harden. So, you know, this is a scary team, Jenna. When KD gets back, we'll be fine. These guys are finally stepping into their roles. You have James Harden saying, I am the point guard, to Nick's point. You have Kyrie Irving saying, I'm the shooting guard. I know my role. And then KD is KD. He's probably the second, third best player in the NBA right now.
I know. I still want to see these three play a couple more games, though. All right, switch gears, talk some football now. How about this guy, Carson Wentz? Can he lead the Colts to the promised land in year one? Oh, we're asking big questions. It's next. It's First Things First, and it's great to be back. Hey, First Things First listeners. I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead. Download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports. Plus, a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. What do you see is Carson Wentz's ceiling in year one with the Colts?
Well, let's start here. I'm no insider, but I know a few people. And when you think about it, I made some calls. And look, this organization thinks that he's special. This organization trusts him. This organization thinks the team knows the team trusts him. And this isn't about Carson Wentz. This is about Frank, the head coach. They truly believe Frank Wright is a special coach. He can reach people. That's what they believe. So when you think about, or when you ask the question, what's his ceiling, then you got to go back to what he did last time he was with Frank. He was having an MVP year. He would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt, Nick. So I think that is the ceiling. This dude truly is a guy who can play football. Something happened in Philly. A lot of people believe that they put the quarterback ahead of the team, and when you do that, you just get in trouble. So that won't happen in Indy. They truly believe they have everything they need from a management standpoint and also from a personnel standpoint to really bring this whole thing together. Super Bowl is the goal for this team. I mean, look at what they did last year. And again, I go back to what they believe. Frank Wright is special. They believe he can reach guys. They think that he did a phenomenal job with Phillip Rivers last year. Look at what he did last year, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The year before, he had 20 picks, 88 rating. So I think this is a good situation for both parties, Nick.
Listen, this was 3 months ago when the Carson Wentz 4 months ago at this point. Trade rumors first started percolating. This was the place that I said on the show, it's the only place it made sense for him to go. They were going to need a quarterback. They were going to have the cap space, and Frank Reich's there. So I think everyone knew eventually this was his likely landing spot. I disagree with you on the ceiling being his 2017 season where he was leading the MVP discussion through 13 weeks. I don't think that player exists anymore. And I don't know if he ever really existed. I think that was a bit of a mirage. I think if you look back on that season, the number of great plays that were made when he was under pressure, under duress, you look at his astronomical passer rating on third and longs, those aren't sustainable. The question is, can he get back to who he was after that prior to this season? Because 2017, he was an A+. 2020, he was an F-. But 2018 and 19, he was good-ish. Can he be good-ish for a team that otherwise is really well put together? And I think the answer to that question is probably. So what's their ceiling about what it was last year? Last year they won 11 games. They were this close to beating the fighting Josh Allen's in the playoffs. If they had picked up that fumble, they would have beaten the fighting Josh Allen's in the playoffs. But to me, Brandon, it's not just about the player that he is. I'm going to put you in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. I want to ask you a question. If you are a receiver on the Colts, and Phillip Rivers seems to be a guy people really love playing with. They don't like playing against him, but his teammates seem to really like him. And he seems to be a guy that inspires some loyalty. If you're a receiver on the Colts and you haven't met Carson, but you've read the things we've read, are you excited about this? Are you happy about this? Yeah. Do you want to play with this guy knowing just what we know on the outside looking in?
Look, that's the amazing thing about the locker room, Nick. And look, I'll be skeptical. But right now, he's off to a great start. He's calling his teammates. He's FaceTiming his teammates. He's doing everything he's supposed to do. So, yeah, I'll be skeptical. But at the end of the day, everybody wants another opportunity. Everybody wants a fresh start. Hell, I was a guy that got 2 or 3 fresh starts, and it worked out well. The first half of my career, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It was all bad. And then the second half of my career, it was amazing. I became a solution in the locker room, and I was a guy that people could depend on. So if it happened for me, then it can happen for Carson Wentz. Now, obviously, different distractions and different situations, but I truly believe this is a good situation for him. And then you said something interesting, Nick, and you're talking about team. Let's look at Philadelphia. How are they built? Defensively, they lost the #1 guy back there in Malcolm Jenkins. He was the glue not only to that defense, but that whole team. They had no depth at the linebacker position. They were depleted on the offensive line up front. They had really no true running game. They really wasn't committed there, had no identity, and they had no wide receivers. So now when you look at the Indy situation, you insert Carson Wentz, and you have a top-tier defense, a top-tier running back, top-tier running game, and then you have pass catchers. This is a good situation for him. And then also include protection. A top 7 offensive line, Jenna.
And Nick, let me just throw something else in there. The reports that we're hearing now is that he had really lost communication with Doug Peterson down the stretch, and there was no relationship with the head coach. So now he's got all those things on the team, and a guy who he really trusts as head coach, a guy who was basically offensive coordinator the last time he was really truly successful. Now you restore that confidence, and you'd like to believe that he's going into an environment where as long as he gains the players' trust, the coach is going to sort of make it an easy transition for him with Frank Reich. Is that not also in play here?
I think that's all part of it, which is why I think it can work. And to add to it, you go from the team with the most different offensive line combinations last season in recorded NFL history to a team that is very stable on the offensive line. Now, they might move Quentin Nelson to tackle. I don't know why you would do that. He's the best guard in football. But you're a guy who previously didn't know who was going to be protecting him to a guy who's going to be well protected. That works out for him. My skepticism is this. I just never hear any accountability from Carson Wentz over why it has gone so badly. And I haven't not heard enough from him or even off the record, not off the record, but anonymous accounts from teammates about how he's unfairly portrayed in the media, how he's actually this guy in a good way, as opposed to the guy who's been portrayed as kind of a selfish, maybe a guy that's unsure of his positioning the moment you draft a second-round project in Jalen Hurts. Like this, Carson Wentz has gotten exactly what he wanted. He goes to a better team with the coach he succeeded with better weapons, a better offensive line. If he doesn't succeed here, then I think you can wash your hands of him as a player. It could not be a better situation for Wentz. I don't know if we are just too tied to what he did in 2017. Because what we have since then is some sample of good play, some sample of horrific play, and no sample of great play. And so I think the Colts will be fine if he is just an above-average quarterback, but I don't think the 2017 Wentz is coming back at any point, Brandon.
I disagree with you, Nick. 2017 Wentz, I think he's still there. Look, you're sitting next to a guy virtually that was in the same situation. You know, a lot of people wrote me off. A lot of people thought that, oh, he's not great for the locker room. And then all of a sudden you get a fresh start. You have a different perspective. You look yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what? Maybe I can be better. Maybe I should be better. It probably is me. So because he's not publicly doing it, I'm sure he's looking at it internally and privately saying there's some things I can work on. Nick, I know it's a little early. right? It's we talk about these too early predictions, but I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts to come out the AFC. It's a little too early.
Way
You can't look at Jenna's face. Look at
It's early in the morning and early in the season and early in the week and early in the year.
It's not even the season. We haven't even gotten into the new football league year yet.
Listen, if Wentz is 2017 Wentz with those weapons and that coaching, that's not a bad take, especially because AFC South might have the two worst teams in the league, in the Jags and the Texans, if the Texans trade away Deshaun Watson. So you just build in 4 wins to start your season, which is a great spot. I just want to push back a bit in this regard. I totally understand, Brandon, your story and guys that have turned corners in their career. I feel like it's a little different for quarterbacks because your entire football life, I don't think you were taught from age 13, you have to be the leader on the team. You've got to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I think it's about go kick butt on the field. Go catch a bunch of balls, score a bunch of touchdowns, create a bunch of yards. That's your role. Quarterbacks are taught from the beginning. It is partly what you do on the field, partly what you do in the locker room. And if you're 28 years old and you still haven't gotten it, I think it's harder for that position, Jenna, to have a big change than a guy at almost any other position on the field.
All right, we're going to have Greg Jennings in to talk about this in a little bit, but it is now time for Nick's NBA medals. Trae Young, he went off last night, 35-15 in a win over the Nuggets. But that is not the kind of action that wins you a medal in Nick Wright's eyes. So, Nick, high bar, who we got today?
First medals in 10 days, America. I know you've been eagerly awaiting them.
Here we go.
Bronze medalist James Harden. Spectacular last night. 37-11-7 in a great win for the Nets over the Clippers. He gets a bronze medalist. Silver medal, we got to go to Friday. I was sitting on a beach, drinking tequila. I said, Jamal Murray did
About
what?
time.
50 points. But here's the thing. 50 points with no free throw attempts. It's been done precisely 0 times in NBA history. So wait, how does that not get a goal? Because Joel Embiid had one of the finest games, maybe the finest game of any one All-NBA season. No Ben Simmons, no problem. 50 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals, in a win over the Bulls on Friday. Joel Embiid with your gold medal, Brandon. So there it is. You've got your guy, James Harden, not your guy, Jamal Murray, and your new guy, Joel Embiid. Brandon Marshall's out here just juggling fellas. So there it is, Brandon. There's our bronze, silver, gold medalist.
Interesting phrase.
Listen, buddy, great job on the medals this week, this early Monday morning. You did great. I forgot about Jamal Murray. What happened to this guy? Is this his first time showing up since the bubble? Great job, man. I forgot that he had this awesome outing. 50 points. No trip to the free throw line. But look, buddy, I'm going to take it easy on you. I got a take later on. It's going to make you mad.
We're juggling fellas on a Monday morning. Talk the King. Are the Lakers asking too much of LeBron during AD's absence? One of the greatest lines ever uttered on this show. I will just call it that. Thanks, Nick. That's for you next. First things first.
I thought you'd like that, Jenna.
Hey, First Things First listeners. It's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
We've got friend and colleague and NBA champ Antoine Walker with us now. Antoine, good morning. Help us run the fast break here. Here we go. Paul George had a big fourth quarter for the Clippers last night, but Ty Lue pulled him for the last 3 minutes, and the Nets went on to win. Ty Lue blaming it on a minutes restriction as PG makes his way back from a toe injury. But come on, Antoine, let him finish it out. You surprised he did that last night?
Yeah, I'm surprised. And the reason why I'm surprised, as a player, it's a few games on the schedule that you circle that you want to be a part of. And this is one of those games. I mean, Paul George was probably looking forward to playing against the Brooklyn Nets, and then he gets it going in the fourth quarter and brings them back. And then you get snatched for 2 minutes and 50 seconds. That's last 3 minutes of the game. That's tough. My thing is this, and I don't know this, if T. Lue had a discussion with Paul George, when you listen to the after the game presser, it didn't seem like they both was on the same page. And that's disturbing. We all know Paul George's past, and obviously the situation with Doc Rivers about some of the miscommunication between the two guys. You don't want to start that. Your superstar guys you're paying $40 million to, want to play in certain games. And I don't think 3 minutes would have really hurt him. So I can't take T. Lue's side on this. You got to go with the player in this situation in a highly competitive game, and especially if I got it going on. I don't think 3 minutes is going to hurt me either way. So T. Lue made a bad decision on this. And this regular season is early. It may not linger on, but certain players circle certain games, and they want to show up in those games.
Come on, Ty Lue. Are you kidding me? What's going on in pro sports? All this data, all this analytics, it's just getting out of control. Now, I do embrace it. I do believe it's needed. But come on. Load management is cool. I'm actually a fan of it. But like you said, Walt, these are the games that you circle. And when you talk about load management, it's either you're playing or you're not. When you get into crunch time as a player, if a coach do this, just walk up to the scorer's table and check yourself in. Nick, I did this in high school. Coach Cone, I know you're watching. I promise you, Walk, I did it. I walked to the scorer's table. I said, I'm going in. I'm going in right now. It's probably like the third quarter. We're down by like 20. And I just checked myself in. Nick, I don't know how you feel about this, but this was terrible by Ty Lue.
And that right there was the start of Brandon Marshall being part of the problem, not part of the solution. He would solve that 10 years later. Listen, this is not on Ty Lue. Ty Lue was as mad as Paul George was. This is on the Clippers medical staff, and I actually think this is a huge story. And we're going to talk more about this later. I should have mentioned this before the show. Because, guys, this isn't about modern science. This is about pseudoscience. And it's a pseudoscience that has not improved in 35 years. How do I know? Let's go back to the summer when we were watching at the beginning of quarantine, almost a full year ago, The Last Dance. Remember episode 1 of The Last Dance? What happened? Michael Jordan, fresh off a broken foot, wants to go back into a game with a minute left. But the Bulls trainers were like, nope, he's played his allotted 18 minutes. 1 minute more, foot'll fall off. Can't do it. 35 years later, we're watching the Clippers. It's like, 33 minutes, that's it on the dot. 34 minutes, he'll never be the same. It's nonsense. I am all for
but a player knows his body better than anybody else.
Right. I agree. Brandon, I agree. And Paul George wanted to play, and Ty Lue wanted to play him. And they weren't allowed because they said we're listening to the doctors. But the doctors are guessing on this stuff.
More than the doctors,
it's terrible. It's okay. That's Brandon wants him to go rogue, but that's separate. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
You can't always leave it up to the player. All right, on to New Orleans now. Pelicans were down 24, came all the way back to beat the Celtics in overtime. Zion just bullied his way. I mean, if you watch this game, he bullied his way to 28-10. And Brandon, was last night more about Zion's dominance or whatever's going on with the Boston Celtics right now?
All Zion. I mean, look, this kid he went to high school at Spartanburg Day School. Okay, that's in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He didn't play anybody, Nick. He didn't play anybody, Jenna. And then he went on to Duke, where he was one and done. What did we see there? They let him have the ball in his hand. You turn on all his highlights, go to YouTube, and all you're going to see is Zion with the ball in his hands and making things happen and dunking all over people, swatting their shots. We haven't seen that yet with the Pelicans. They have finally released this guy. They finally let this guy go loose. So when you think about who he is, this is Tyreek Hill in a Shaquille O'Neal type body. That's who he is.
No.
We don't know how good this kid's going to be. But pay attention, the Zion era has started now.
Okay, so a few things. One is Chris Broussard was supposed to be here for one segment today, but because he has been so disrespectful to Zion's spot on the pyramid, he begged out of it. So we get more Antoine Walker, so that's good for us.
What happened, America?
No, that is true, America. Listen, there's two stories. Zion's last 7 games, he's averaging 30 points on an absurd 67% shooting. His free throw shooting is now passable. He doesn't shoot the 3. He does it all at the rim, and no one can stop him. He came into the league as a top 25 player, and he's only rising on that. That's one side of the ledger. The other side of the ledger is this, Antoine Walker. Your Celtics stink. They have a bad roster. Kemba Walker is a shell of his former self. They really miss Gordon Hayward, evidently. Jeff Teague has been a non-factor. Jaylen Brown's been awesome. Jason Tatum has been really good. COVID knocked him out a bit. But they've got 2 guys. 2 guys you can rely on, and the rest of the team stinks. They blew a 24-point lead last night, Antoine, and the Celtics should be greatly concerned.
Well, I'm going to take a different approach than you guys took. It wasn't about Zion last night, Nick. It was about the Celtics. And it kind of sums up the Celtics season in a nutshell right now at 15-15. Like you said, Nick, they do have 2 All-Stars. I think Jaylen Brown and Tatum both make the All-Star team. Those 2 guys should be deserving there. Kemba Walker is really hurt. He hasn't came out and said it. I know he's fighting through it, but that knee has never been the same. His numbers reflect that. He's not playing at the same level that we used to see Kemba Walker play at. Took a bad shot last night when he wasn't not having a great night. He was only 1 for 12 from the 3-point line. And then that hurt. I know you don't want to talk about it, and a lot of people haven't talked about it, but they're missing their heart and soul, and that's Marcus Smart. So it's hard for me to make a judgment on it. I still believe they're a top 4 team in the East. When they get Marcus Smart back, they'll be a lot more competitive. A little bit to blame on Danny Ainge and not strengthening the roster. Their bench is not very good. They have a very good starting lineup. So this is last night just kind of showed everything of what's wrong with the Celtics in that 24-point debacle that they had.
Antoine's still holding out hope on his Boston Celtics. On to LeBron now. The King was asked about missing his co-star Anthony Davis. Said, quote, "Time for me to adjust." Back to you, Twan. Are the Lakers asking for too much out of LeBron with AD sidelined now?
They could be. This is the time that the Lakers coaching staff has to make a decision, and the organization. You know you're not going to have AD back for a while, probably 4 to 6 weeks with this injury. You got to be really careful with it. And you got to decide whether or not what's more important. Right now you're holding your own. You're the second seed in the Western Conference. How important is it? Can you do it at the 4th spot? Can you do it at the 5th spot? I would not wear LeBron James out. I know LeBron thinks he's going to try to do everything in his power to keep this winning up. But if you happen to fall a little bit and LeBron's healthy, you still have a legitimate chance to win the NBA title. But if you wear him out right now during this regular season, trying to keep this magical record up, then you're going to have problems. So LeBron James, they're going to have to sit down with LeBron and figure this out. You don't want to get him on a minute restriction, but you're going to have a fresh LeBron because AD is going to take a while to get back. Brandon, you alluded to this earlier in the show. AD's having a not-so-great year. He has going to have to get back in basketball shape. So they got to make a decision on what they want to do.
He's having a terrible year, and I said that correctly, terrible. Look, this is exactly what LeBron has to do. Like, there's no other option. And the biggest thing here, and I'll be quick, Nick, they're finally realizing that they're not deep. Like, we thought they were deep. AD goes down, and then Schroeder goes down, and now you have nobody. So this team really isn't good without AD. This is devastating for the Lakers, Nick.
All right, so I think that's overstating it. And listen, you're without your second and third best scorers, and you end up losing a game that you lose on a last-second shot. It happens, or a last-second miss by Caruso. On LeBron's last 5 games, he's shooting 14% from 3. And this is how LeBron's whole career goes. He'll have a month where he shoots 40%, and this month he's shooting 25%. Right now his three's not falling, so that's why all of a sudden he looks semi-inefficient the last few games. But you don't have to worry about wearing LeBron out, but I want to run something by. Can we put everyone on the screen real quick? Because I think I have a really good idea here. Because the Lakers want to keep playing LeBron. They don't want him to miss time. LeBron has said he doesn't think the All-Star game should be played. LeBron is an All-Star captain. Kevin Durant is an All-Star captain. He's out with a hamstring injury. I think LeBron and Kevin Durant should not only pick the teams, I think they should coach the teams. I think, like, seriously, coach the teams. They don't play in the games.
You just want to change
LeBron
the format?
gets the week off. Just rather than him opt out, KD can get more time to rest his hamstring. LeBron can get some actual rest. And Antoine, how competitive? I feel like the game would be more competitive with LeBron and AD coaching and doing adjustments and sets than if they were to actually play. So that's my recommendation.
This is where you make your money, TV deals.
Off, but they got to coach. I think people would want to see him coach.
You got to play.
LeBron's already coaching.
Hey, listen, it'll be great.
Right, Jenna.
That'll be a great idea, but I don't think they want that pressure of having to put the last 6 minutes who you have in the game. If I was LeBron and KD, I wouldn't want that pressure on who's going to be in the game.
Oh, who's
now you see how
the politics.
They're going to make a Ty Lue move. Just don't do what Ty Lue did.
All right, let's go back to last night. The Brooklyn Nets, are they the NBA's hottest team right now? We will discuss. But first, a note to everyone lucky enough to be invited onto Brandon's I Am Athlete podcast. You will work. Take a listen.
Fellas, what's going on? Y'all need some towels? Appreciate it. There you go, man. Yes, sir. Cam Newton here, at your service. Be here all day. All right, now. Hey, brother. How you doing? There you go. Appreciate you, Cam. All right, now you sure you need another one? Good. Oh, okay. Make sure you got to close the door after you get done. Big man, you need something? You sure? All right, Cam Newton. I'll be here all day. Giving all your towels.
That's great.
Back here, first things first, we're talking Joel Embiid. Don't look now, but he appears to be chasing those 3 little letters with that 3 big, impactful MVP.
Those people are so
career high
rude,
50.
Jenna. They were talking over
Friday.
you.
They were so loud. I lost my train of thought.
My God.
Unbelievable.
Rude men.
Anyway,
Trying to
they missed me
mansplain
for a
Joel
hot
Embiid
minute.
to
Now
Jenna.
I'm back.
This is ridiculous.
And now you're being
Antoine
rude. Stop
Walker's back
talking,
with
Nick.
us now. Well, it's all good. It's all good. It'll all even itself out for Twan. Hey, Twan, let me ask you. Has Embiid overtaken LeBron James for MVP favorite?
Well, let me start with saying that he's been the MVP all season long. He's not overtaking anything. I think it's his award to lose. Embiid has had a monster year. You think about the 30 and 11, 53 from the field, 85 from the free throw line, and then a surprising 40% from the three. My problem with Embiid, and the only thing I'm worried about that can really hurt him, is how many games he's going to play. He's already missed 6. You start missing 15, 16 games in a shortened season, then it's probably LeBron's award because we know LeBron James is going to play every game. So right now, Embiid just has to stay healthy, continue performing at the level that he's at, and he'll be the MVP of this league. Unless his team goes on a drastic losing streak, which I don't think so. I think they'll be a top 3 team in the East. He's playing terrific, and that's his award to win. I think only if he doesn't get hurt and miss a significant amount of time, he will be the MVP this year.
Ooh, well, put your seatbelt on. Look, Joel Embiid is not only the MVP, but he's the best player on the planet. That's what he is right now. This dude has figured it out. He's unguardable. Wow. Yes, Nick. You pay attention, man. Are you watching this? This dude figured it out. This dude is 40% from 3. Twan, you just gave the statistics. Okay, 54 from the field, 53 from mid-range. That's Kevin Durant's career high. And he's 7 foot tall. He has everything. He has handle. He has a pull-up shot. This is Olajuwon, Dirk, and Shaquille O'Neal wrapped up in one. That's what we're seeing here, guys. And I'll be the first to go out there on the limb on these little tiny little branches and say that this dude is not only the MVP, but he's the best player on the planet. Who else is out there that can do what this dude is doing right now?
Okay. So Brandon has done a very, very interesting parlor trick here, which is almost tried to box me in to my own take. So I'm going to take you back a few months ago. Before the year, NBA Finals pick, Lakers Sixers. Before the year, NBA MVP pick was Luka, with the caveat being, if the Mavs aren't good enough, it would be Joel Embiid. Up to this point in the season,
did say that.
on a per game basis, Embiid would be the MVP. But he has missed 20% of the season. Because of that, I think LeBron has a slight edge. But it's LeBron and Embiid, or Embiid and LeBron, and then a massive gap. Steph's team's not good enough. Luka's team is bad. Durant keeps missing time. Harden quit on a team. Kyrie took a sabbatical. It's hard. It's LeBron and Embiid, or Embiid and LeBron. And the biggest edge LeBron has is that Embiid's missed these 6 games. But Brandon, you made a mistake that a lot of people have made. And that mistake is believing best player on the planet is something that is attainable during the regular season. It's not. That is how we got to, you know who the best player in basketball is? Steph Curry. That's how we got to, you know who the best player in the NBA is?
That was never a real thing.
Antetokounmpo. Oh, it was a real thing.
That was a real thing. Giannis was real. Giannis was real.
Giannis was a real one.
Giannis was real.
Yeah.
And now, in part 3 of the trilogy, you know who the best player in the NBA is? Joel Embiid.
He has a chance.
Every year, come June, it's like, oh no.
Look, now you're trying to back me up in the corner.
The league is, it's LeBron. Because it's been LeBron every year for the last 14. So, I love you.
Yeah, but they got to pass the torch soon. Yeah, he's going to have to pass the torch. We've been talking about Luka and Luka's team, Dallas. They're not winning. AD's having a terrible year. We thought it was going to potentially be AD. Then we talked about Luka. AD's having a terrible year. Luka, their team's not winning. So look, last year in the bubble, we were talking about this guy not being a great leader, or at least I was. This dude had a little under 3 months off. How does a guy make such huge strides in such little time? Like, think about what this dude, where he was last year. We're talking about developing a 3. We're talking about developing mid-range. We're talking about a complete game. How do you only have 2 to 3 months off, and then you do this? This dude is phenomenal. And then the last thing, I want you to talk about is this dude isn't even talking. He was a big kid. Now he's a grown man. So explain that to us.
Well, let me be. I played for Doc Rivers, and he's one of the greatest offensive-minded coaches that's out there. He's great at putting players in position where they can flourish at offensively. We all know I was a volume shooter, but with Doc Rivers, I shot my best field goal percentage because he knew how to get me in certain spots where I could be effective. And I think this is the Doc Rivers effect, and why we see Embiid's numbers went up dramatically, and he's playing much better basketball, is because he's holding them accountable, and he's being efficient. These are, two-guard type numbers when you think about 53 from the field, 40 from the three-point line, and then 85 from the free throw line. These are ungodly numbers for a center. He's putting up big time. But I do have to disagree with you that he's the best player on the planet. He's the best big man in the league, but he's not the best player on the planet. The best player on the planet is LeBron James. We're going to continue. We're going to continue to say. And I will add this. If LeBron James maintains a top 3 seed in the West with AD out,
look at Nick just happy.
Look at LeBron James.
Well, it's just right.
You may have to give it to LeBron James.
Right things are being said.
Oh, no, Jen, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say to that.
But at the end of it, if he stays healthy, Antoine's right. He's already been out a handful of games, so we'll wait and see. All right, switch gears. We got to head to Dallas. Could this really be Dak's final season as a Cowboy? We discuss that next. Antoine Walker, thank you. We'll see how that one goes. We welcome back Greg Jennings to the conversation because we want to play a little drawing a blank. So what do you do after you win a 7th Super Bowl? I mean, don't ask Tom Brady. He literally has no idea. Tweeted yesterday, so what am I supposed to do for the next 5 months? Brandon, Tom Brady's offseason should be spent blank.
Oh, that's just Tom just playing with us. This is a rhetorical question. That's the answer here. Tom Brady needs to continue to do what he's always done. The TB12 method. A little bit of fun and a whole lot of work. Greg, I don't know if you follow TB12, but even when he goes on vacation, he takes his helmet, he takes his shoulder pad, he takes his guy, Mr. Greg or whatever his name is, and they're always working. Look at this dude in Cabo. He's at Cabo. He's in Cabo with his wife and kids and still training. This is phenomenal. Tom Brady, continue to do what you've always done, buddy.
Brandon, you mentioned all those things he brings. You forgot the needle to deflate the ball. All right, listen. There are certain words that always are followed by another word. For example, you only ever hear the word ensuing if you're going to then say ensuing kickoff or ensuing possession. You never say like, and on the ensuing day. So Tom Brady's offseason should be spent contemplating. Because what's the word you always hear following contemplating? Retirement.
Retirement.
Tom, you've done enough. You're rich. You're famous. You've got 7 rings. What more? Giselle has been begging you to retire. So just listen. I never tell someone to retire. Guys should be able to play as long as they want to. But I just want to, Tom, do you really want to? So be contemplative and be contemplating.
You just want him to get out the way for your guy, Mahomes.
No, I want what's best for him, Greg. Greg, I want what's best for him and his family. So
they stand in the way, Greg.
It sounds like you're trying to get Mahomes another ring. But what he should continue doing is trolling all the doubters on social media. That's what Tom Brady has been doing, man. Ever since he's won, ever since he knew he was going to win. He's been trolling every doubter that has doubted him and questioned the decision not only to go to Tampa Bay, but could he get it done and was he washed? That's what he needs to continue doing. I enjoy it.
All right, let's move on to Philadelphia now. Carson Wentz is out. So doesn't that mean Jalen Hurts is in? Who knows? Eagles reportedly thinking about drafting a quarterback with the 6th pick because a quarterback battle is clearly in vogue with this Eagles team. So, Brandon, a QB competition should have Jalen Hurts feeling blank.
He should feel juiced, Jenna. Absolutely juiced. I mean, a true competitor, a real competitor, loves competition. Look, you're not competing against the guys on your team. You're competing against yourself. You're trying to be the best version of yourself, and you're trying to be the best to ever do it. If you don't have that attitude, then you're not a true competitor. He's been here before, Greg. He's been here before, Nick. Think about it in Alabama. He was going against Tua. He handled it perfectly, but Tua is just too magical. So he's built for this, Nick.
I don't think it's going to bother him, but he should be feeling a little confused, as I think all Eagles fans are. The Eagles are very fortunate the Texans exist, because the Texans have been such a clown car. We haven't talked about Philly over the last few months as much as we should have. What happened with them in Week 17, it's like, nope, they're picking Carson Wentz over Doug Peterson. Nope, actually, they're picking neither. They're going with Jalen Hurts. Nope, they might take a guy 6th overall. What's the plan? Like, does anybody know the plan? And by the way, does anybody think what Philly needs is more quarterbacks as opposed to more literally everything else on the roster? So I'm confused. I imagine Jalen is confused as well, Greg.
I'm more leaning towards you, Brandon. I think he should feel confident. He's been here before, not only with Alabama, but even with this team. He understands the guys in this locker room. They believe in him. They have his confidence and bold of leadership. Like, he's done this. He has an advantage. And so moving forward, regardless of who they bring in, dude, be confident in who you are. You can only control what you can control, and that's Jalen Hurts' approach.
All right, let's head to Pittsburgh now. Big Ben's future not guaranteed with the Steelers. Report says Ben could actually be an option for the Washington football team if Pittsburgh decides to move on. Brandon, Big Ben's best option next season is blank.
Ooh, this is a juicy one. Look, the writing's on the wall. The answer is a pay cut or right on TV with us, with all the other old retired guys that used to play sports talking about what we used to do. Big Ben. Look, man, Kevin Colbert, the general manager's, his comments are telling. He's telling you. He's like, look, if Big Ben isn't willing to take a significant pay cut, then we're going to move on. That's pretty much what he said. So, Big Ben, take the pay cut so you can get one more year, or come on the TV with us, buddy. We can talk about the good old days.
Remember that great Jay Glazer quote? Ben's idea of off-season workouts or yoga, a round of golf, and some beer? I think his best option is exactly that without the yoga. Why do you need the yoga if you're retired? Golf and beer. That's the answer. Listen, Ben, you don't want to come on TV. You don't want to play for a pay cut. You don't want to go play in Washington. You've earned it, man. You made $250 million. You got a couple rings. You had a bad final game. Go play 36 a day. Drink 18 a day, or not a day, but however you want to. He's a big guy. You handle a lot. And enjoy yourself. Golf and beer. You've earned it, Ben. See, I'm not.
Greg,
don't say I'm scared of Ben. Don't say Mahomes is scared of Ben. I want what's best for these guys in their older age. Golf and beer, Greg.
Greg, we crush Big Ben. Be nicer, Greg.
I know, man. I'm not gonna tell him to retire, but a suit and tie or a suit and a jacket and blazer and turtleneck, it'll look good, man. He got a lot of stories.
Or a tracksuit.
I'm with you, Greg.
Or a tracksuit.
He got a lot of insight. We can hear. The fans would love to know even more of what was going on in Pittsburgh. Let us know those stories on this side.
I feel like Big Ben's not going to be all in on our takes. To Dallas we go. Dak and the Cowboys still trying to work a long-term deal. I feel like I've been saying that line for 4 years. Cowboys Hall of Famer Drew Pearson chimed in saying if the Cowboys franchise tag Dak a second time, quote, Dak ain't going to be here after that. I will second that. So, Brandon, Dak playing on the franchise tag again would be blank.
Jenna, this answer is bad business. And let me try something here. I'm going to be quick, Nick. If you don't get the deal, stay home and chill. That's all I got. Stay home and chill.
Oh, okay. Buddy. Oh, little wordplay.
Hold out.
I'm going to say worst case scenario. And it's worst case scenario, I would argue, for Dak, because he's coming off a traumatic injury, and to not have the long-term security of a contract would be the worst case scenario. Be the worst case scenario for Dallas, because I agree with Drew Pearson that if he plays another year under the franchise tag, he then will be a true free agent and someone else will give him the money Dallas has been hesitant to. And most importantly, worst case scenario for us, because if I have to go through another 6 months of Dak's contract, I'm going to contemplate retirement. I can't deal with it. Guys, there's a lot of really fascinating storylines. Dak Prescott's contract has been, it's like you're waiting on a new pope. What color's the smoke? What is enough? So worst case scenario for everyone, including the viewers. So please, I implore you, get a deal done.
That's great, Nick. That's great.
Yeah, this is disappointing. It's disappointing for so many reasons and on so many levels, because if you look at Carson Wentz with the Eagles, he gets what he wants. He gets out. He wants out. He gets to the best position and situation for him possible. Dak, the Dallas Cowboys have been super hypocritical when it comes to player signing contracts. We always hear just do everything the right way and you'll get rewarded. Well, Dak has done everything that they've asked him to do and beyond, and he still hasn't gotten rewarded. He got hurt. He's coming back. He still wants to be a part. Just pay that man. This is disappointing.
The writing's on the wall. If they hadn't paid him, they're reluctant to pay him. It just does not look like they're going to pay him. On to Cam Newton now. He joined Brandon and crew on the I Am Athlete podcast that'll be released later today. Check out this clip from the episode.
My pride won't even allow me to do that. Listen, bro, there's not 32 guys better than me. Put it like that. So you're asking me,
where you at? Talk,
I'm not 32.
All right, Brandon, to be a fly on that wall, Cam's comments on your I Am Athlete podcast were blank.
Facts, Jenna. And Jenna, I had to take a page from your books. I know you won a couple Emmys. And look, I had to get messy. You got to ask the tough questions. And I love how he responded. And it's facts. He's right. You know, I mean, is he better than Big Ben? We just talked about Big Ben retiring. Is he better than Mitch Trubisky in Chicago? There's a few teams out there that don't even have a quarterback. Houston Texans, stop trying to hold Deshaun Watson hostage. Maybe you have a guy in Cam Newton go get. The Washington football team, do you have a quarterback? The Giants, do you have a quarterback? And there's a couple other teams out there, the Detroit Lions, and then also you can say the New Orleans Saints, who I don't think will actually make a move like that because I truly believe they may go try to go get Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, facts.
Okay, so a couple things. One, can we put Brandon on the screen with me before I give my answer? Because I had heard this audio, but I hadn't seen this video. And Brandon, I gotta tell you, I'm a little disappointed you never gaze into my eyes while I'm talking the way you were with Cameron. Just to contemplate what's coming up next. just waiting on it. Just that inquisitive.
I had to get my Jenna
talk to you 3 hours a day, every day. I've never once gotten that look. Maybe it's the hat. I don't know. Cam's obviously much better looking than me, but Mike, maybe it's just because we're virtual and you guys are in the same room.
Film.
When we're in studio
like
together.
It's like sports.
Oh, okay. I got it. I understand. I'm going to go ahead and say it's when we're in studio together, Brandon, I'm going to be looking for that look as soon as I start a diatribe about your Nets. My answer, though, is misguided. Because what's best for Cam isn't going to some crummy team because they don't have a quarterback and being on national television once a year. What's best for Cam is to get a Super Bowl ring, score touchdowns, be part of a winning culture. Cam, the Chiefs are just inviting you in, buddy. We need a goal line quarterback. We need a 4th and inches guy. Patrick Mahomes has gotten dinged up over the years. We're on a redemption tour just like you after what happened. Come to Kansas City, learn some tricks from Andy Reid, and bonus take, you can go with Eric Bieniemy wherever he goes next year. You
what
get
about
a good relationship with Bieniemy.
Anything is
He's
possible.
He's going to get his own team. Anything is possible had his moment. Come to Kansas City, score some touchdowns, eat some barbecue, and then go on with Bieniemy and be his quarterback somewhere. So it's a little misguided, Greg. That's my answer.
Terrible.
No, it's not terrible. See, that's the look I get. I don't get this look, I get this look. It's so frustrating.
No, it's all good. This is debatable, though. Brandon, I hear you, man, and I know we can list some quarterbacks and some situations that would suit Cam, but I think it's not just about what Cam has done previously, because he's 31, he'll be 32 when the season starts, and teams are looking for youth. If you haven't established yourself of what have you done for me lately, or what have you shown on tape lately. His passing touchdown last, passing yards last, touchdown to interception ratio last. Like, these are real stats.
It was the hardest job in football.
I get
it was the hardest job in football, Jenna.
We heard what he said.
No receivers, offensive line banged up.
My pride won't let me. My pride. Let me get your pride to get the numbers up, man.
That's fair. That's why I should come to Kansas City. Come to Kansas City, score touchdowns.
Stop that, man.
Pipe dream. Talk some hoops. Hey, are the Nets really the hottest team in the NBA? We discuss next. But first, Brandon's putting Cam to work at House of Athlete.
Fellas, what's going on? Y'all need some towels? Appreciate it. There you go, man. Yes, sir. Cam Newton here, at your service. Be here all day. All right, now. Hey, brother. How you doing? There you go. Appreciate you, Cam. All right, now you sure you need another one? Good. Oh, okay. Make sure you got to close the door after you get done. Big man, you need some. You sure? All right, Cam Newton. I'll be here all day. Giving all your towels.
On Saturday, the former two-time super middleweight world champion Anthony the Dog Durrell returns and will face off against the rising Chiron shut-it-down Davis. Don't miss the action. Durrell versus Davis Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Got to talk a little Nets, got to talk a little Clippers. The two faced off. Brandon would say this could be a title game preview. Nick would say Brandon could be losing his mind. Nets without KD again didn't matter because of James Harden, because of Kyrie Irving, because of just a little bit of defense. It was all too much for the Clippers. Nets go on to win that 6th in a row for them. Nick, 6 in a row. You got to start to believe in this Brooklyn Nets team. Their title chances, and they're playing great right now.
Okay. One of those things you said is true. One is false.
I don't like your energy.
They are
right
playing
now.
great right now. Well, you know what? I'm going to try to get us there.
Jeez.
It is true they are playing great. It is not true I have to believe in them as title contenders. So I'm going to try to use an analogy here. And I'm not going to blame... Listen, last night it was a great win. Forget the fact that it involved Paul George sitting inexplicably, DeAndre Jordan tipping in a ball accidentally, and the worst offensive foul call of the year. Forget all that. It's a great win. You don't have KD. You beat the Clippers. No asterisks there. But I'm going to try to use an analogy, Brandon. Let's say I bought a brand new sports car. And I said, Brandon, I'm going to drive this thing cross country. And you're like, Nick, I don't know how that's going to deal on like rocky roads and through the mountains. And I'm like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco up the Pacific coast of the country. And I'm like, it was awesome. Sun was out. Wind was in my hair. It was beautiful. And you're like, okay, Nick, that's great. But you still got to drive across the Rocky Mountains. I'm like, well, this 10-hour drive was amazing. How hard can that one be? And so watching the Nets go on a winning streak against opponents with no big men to speak of, when their path through the Rocky Mountains is Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then if they get there, Anthony Davis, methinks that this sample might not be enough to convince me. So they look great. You should feel awesome. The defense was better, but those Rocky Mountains are coming. And they don't have an answer for that. And they haven't faced anything like that during this winning streak, my friend.
Nick, just admit it. I mean, we still have so many games, 40-something games left in the season? Right now, just come on to this side and just admit that the Nets are the favorite, not only in the East, but to win the whole thing. Just come on over, bro. Last night was the preview of this year's NBA Finals. We talked about it before the year. I said the Nets will come out the East and also the Clippers out the West because of Ty Lue, because of what they were able to do this offseason and galvanize that locker room and correct those mistakes from a leadership standpoint and also a load management standpoint. So Nick, you just got to respect this team. Kyrie Irving is phenomenal. He's still having a statistical MVP type year. He's playing lights out. They're finally finding the roles. And that guy, James Harden, just passing the ball, he's the point guard. He's making the biggest sacrifice. He's spending more time with the ball. He's got more touches this year than ever. But he's taking less shots. Like, that is a big deal. Nobody's really talking about that, how he is sacrificing. He should be considered this team's MVP. No KD, no Kyrie Irving. It should be this guy. He is the juice of this team. As he goes, this team goes. And we need to talk about him more. So, Nick, this is the preview of this year's NBA Final, and it's time for you to come on this side, buddy.
Okay, well, I'm not going to come on this side. If it is the NBA Final, I think the Nets can beat the Clippers, because the Clippers don't have that interior presence to punish the Nets' biggest weakness. And I think the Harden point's a great one, because if you look at that, what that shows you is he's touching the ball more, but has the ball in his hands the same amount of time. So it means he's not dribble the whole time. He's kicking it out. So that's a very telling graphic. Harden's been great, and I do think they can beat the Clippers. But they would have to go through the 3 best bigs in basketball in order.
Okay,
Giannis
let me answer that, because you keep saying that.
Davis. Yeah.
All right, let me answer that, because you keep saying that, okay? Giannis, They're pretenders. They showed us who they were in the bubble, Nick. This team can't get it done. When Middleton is your number 2, you have no chance. Now, he's a terrific player, and he's playing lights out. Last night, he had 30-something points. But you can't win it with Middleton as your number 2. And Joel Embiid, phenomenal. I just said it earlier that this dude is not only the MVP, but he is the greatest player on the planet right now when you look at the film. Turn it on, you'll see it. But he doesn't have a guy that can consistently score 25, 30 points when it comes to the playoff time. And that's what you're going to need. So I'm not concerned about the East, Nick.
All right, can I jump in here? I want to ask you guys a question about the game last night. Ty Lue pulls Paul George. There's about 3 minutes left, 2 minutes, 50 seconds left in the game. Paul George is having a great fourth quarter. He's clearly on a roll. Ty Lue obviously pulling him, as he said afterwards, because he was on a minutes restriction. PG working his way back from that toe injury. I say let him finish it out when he's playing this way. But, Nick, did this surprise you that he did this?
I don't know if it surprised me, but it did infuriate me, Jenna, because I don't mind listening to science. In fact, I think we'd be far better off if we all listened to science more in all aspects of life. But this isn't science. This is pseudoscience. And Brandon, it's pseudoscience that has not improved in 35 years. We saw in the Last Dance documentary that in 1986, Michael Jordan wanted to come back in a game, and the doctors were like, no, he's played 18 minutes, not a minute more. They're guessing. There is no science that says Paul George can be playing. Look at the time on the clock. He hit that 3 with 4 minutes left in the game. But with 3 minutes left in the game, you're out. You gotta go. It makes no sense, Brandon. So, they're just guessing on this stuff. He wanted to play. The coach wanted to play him. It's very, very frustrating.
So how big of a deal is
things
this?
Like this.
So how big of a deal is this? How big of a deal is this? Is it bigger than just this one game?
Because I just think they're guessing on these minutes restrictions. I think that it's good to say you can't play 40. We want to keep you in the teens. But the idea, Brandon, that you could, if you went into a football game and you're like, you can play 40 snaps. Does that really mean here's the deal? Snap 42?
Here's the deal. This happened to me in basketball. No, it happened to me in high school. Lake Howell High School. I know Coach Cohn is watching. He tried to take me out the game. I went to the scoreboard and the scores table and tried to check myself in. That's what should have happened last night. Do you see Steve Ballmer? Look at Steve Ballmer last night. Let's see the film. These guys wanted to win. So how does the medical staff override the owner, Jenna? Look at this guy. He wants to win.
Ballmer needs to be on a minutes restriction. Ballmer needs to be on a minutes restriction.
You just wonder if this becomes something between coach and player moving forward. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're back here tomorrow morning. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Undisputed starts right now. I can't watch this anymore. Bye.